All right, so today we are going to be talking about how to nail the initial client consult. And to give you a little bit of context, what we've learned here over the years at Bolt Goodley from trial and error, because by no means are we perfect at this, and there's always room to improve, especially when you're trying to fine-tune a sales process. But what we've learned here over the years is that the more time that we spend with the client initially, making sure that we've got the correct expectations before we even send out a proposal or even talk about pricing is not only going to help you walking away feeling good, but ultimately it's going to help you win the business. Here's what to do. Okay, so the first step, do some research. And what I mean by that is don't spend 3 hours trying to research the client, but do things simple like go to the client's website, check out their social media profiles, try to find out a little bit about the individual that you're about to meet with on the phone or sit down and have coffee with by going to their LinkedIn. What this will do is it will immediately add value if you can spot a couple things like, for instance, maybe their website isn't mobile optimized, or maybe their social media profiles aren't consistent with one another. By having that information prepared when you go into the meeting, even if the client already knows that these are problems, which is why, of course, they got in touch with you and they're thinking about hiring you, it shows that you've actually taken the time to really do a little bit of initial work. So the next step is the qualification process. Now here at Bolt Goodley, we have a very defined sales process, and it came to be that way after years of trying things that just simply didn't work and banging our head against the wall. And so you know what I'm talking about. If you run a small agency or you're even an independent contractor, getting a person who's interested in hiring us and getting a person to actually pay us to do work for them are two very different things. So the Bolt Goodley sales process, at least the way that we've created it, was really through just years of trial and error and finding out what works the best. Okay, so the first part might actually not just be one question, it might be a series of questions, but the goal is to get a sense of what the client is trying to accomplish by hiring us as a marketing team or an agency for them. And so really, the idea here is that you want to drill down on what key performance indicators or what metrics they're looking for. Maybe it's sales, maybe it's traffic to a website, maybe it's getting followers on their Instagram profile. Whatever the most important things are for the client, instead of trying to throw 100,000 services at them of all the things that you can do, I guarantee you that at the end of the day, that client is probably looking for 2 or 3 things for you to do really well that are very important metrics for them, that they're going to be extremely satisfied with the work that you're doing for them as long as you can cover those 2 or 3 things that the client wants. Now, even if you can do 10 or 50 or 100 things more for them, I guarantee that they're going to be really focused on those 2 to 3 things. So first step is get a good sense of what they're trying to accomplish in doing business with you, what kind of marketing goals they want. The next question that we ask, it's kind of a trick question. And we've learned to ask it because it's helped us dodge some potential landmines, a lot of them in the past. And that question is, what was your experience in working with your last marketing agency? Now, we just asked this question whether or not they've actually worked with someone before in the past, because we'll get the answer to that just by simply going through the process. And if they haven't worked with an ad agency or a marketing agency before, then that's great. Now we've got an opportunity to make a great first impression, add a whole lot of value to them, and potentially have a lifelong client. If it's anything but that, meaning that they have worked with a marketing agency before in the past, then we want to find out whether the marketing agency shit the bed or whether they were a nightmare client. And you can usually do this by finding this out. If it even goes down that road and the company themselves makes it sound like the marketing company suck, you could do a quick search, Google the marketing company, and even call someone over there, and they'll be real quick to tell you what their experience was in working with the client. This little pro tip has helped me just avoid so many nightmare clients in the past where, at least here at Bolt Goodley, we want to make sure that we're working with the right people and we want to set ourselves up for success. And by taking this consultative approach and asking this specific question, man, it's going to save you a lot of heartache and help you avoid some potential landmines down the road. And when I say I'm making it like a suggestion, it's a suggestion like if we were going to go skydiving, I suggest you take a parachute with you. You don't have to. You can see what happens, but it's a strong suggestion. The questions that I ask are pretty simple ones, and it's really just to gauge whether the company or the prospective client can actually afford the services that you're about to throw at them. So what I'd like to avoid is that before I spend a lot more time in the next steps doing even more research and putting a whole proposal together, it might be prudent to find out whether, the client themselves could actually even afford the services, and if so, how much. So it's good to find out maybe like what the annual revenue that the business is doing and if they have some kind of a marketing budget dedicated for this, or at least initially what they were thinking about spending. And these numbers could range. It could go crazy. I mean, you could have a client that says, well, yeah, I mean, we've done a couple $1 million and, we've allocated at least like a $15,000 a month marketing budget. Or you could have, a more medium to larger size business that hasn't even really thought about these kinds of things before. So it's important to at least ask the question, because if you run into a situation where the business appears to be larger and you're thinking, at least in your mind, that the proposal is probably going to come in somewhere around $5, $10, $15,000, and to them they were thinking about maybe spending $2,500, this is something that you should probably figure out before you spend all the additional time doing more research and giving a very finely tuned proposal. So step 3, this is doing the deeper research and getting the proposal ready for the client. So now that I've answered all these initial questions and I've, been able to get some kind of a temperature on what the client is, thinking that they might spend, I've kind of thrown some things out there on what I think it might actually cost. I've figured out, at least some areas where we can add a lot of value or really help them out. Now it's time to just do whatever research that I need to fill in the gaps so that I can deliver them a proposal that makes sense, right? That actually answers the questions that they have and really adds value to the reason why they came to us in the first place. So again, step 3 is doing whatever deep research that I need to so that I can put together a really good proposal for the client that is going to meet or exceed their expectations on why they came to us to begin with. Okay, step 4 is of course delivering the proposal. Now here's what you don't do. You've taken this real consultative approach with the client. You've asked them all the right questions. They're interested in doing business with you. You've got a good gauge on how much they're going to spend. You do some more research and you get a really great proposal, and then you email it off to them and you just wait to hear back. Don't ever do that. Ever do that. When you send that proposal, that should be followed up with either a book time to speak already for delivering it, or call them and let them know that you just emailed it and that you'd like to schedule a time with them to speak to go over it for you. So what this is going to do is avoid them from getting some kind of sticker shock on the proposal. When they look at it, they again, going back to the 2 or 3 things that was important to them, they're going to go through that proposal, skip all the other stuff that you wrote in there, the synopsis, the summary, all the competitive research you've done, and go straight to the bottom line of how much it's going to cost them. Ask me how I know. We've done this many of times. So what I do is to prevent that from happening, that real awkward conversation or them ducking your phone calls for the next week and a half, is to call them and tell them that you've got the proposal ready. You can even password protect it as a PDF and let them know that you're going to give them the password when you get on the phone with them to go over it with them, and then walk them through each and every single part of the proposal. By doing this, you're going to be able to answer questions and overcome objections right in real time in the moment. And it's going to help clear up any confusion. And again, it comes back down to adding that value, delivering on it, and really managing the expectations of the prospective client. And if you take that little pro tip, which was given to me when I was first getting started in my career, man, it has just helped us out so much as a company to just walk them through step by step. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Step 5 is final negotiation. So usually it's not uncommon where when going through the proposal, the client will have questions, and this is your opportunity again to add value. And even a lot of places upsell or cross-sell, as long as you're always taking that consultative approach and making sure that the client's goals align with your goals. Meaning that as a marketing agency, my goal for every client is to not just amplify their brand or make them more money. It's to make sure that they feel good about the money that they're paying us, so that we've got a good exchange. We've got that reciprocity between the two of our companies. So in the final negotiations, we might make some concessions or some changes. There might be some questions asked in there. Maybe there's some custom code that they need for their website. Maybe they need some kind of new widget or something that needs to be added. This is your opportunity to make sure that we're meeting their expectations, because the next step is to send them the final contract and collect money. And you don't want there to be any last minute changes when you're waiting for a signed contract and to get that initial deposit for the beginning of that work, especially when it comes to fulfillment and operations, and making sure that the rest of your team is depending on you to land sales in the door, making sure that when you bring on a new client that you've managed the expectations so it's not going to be a big mess for the fulfillment team to get in and start doing the work. So This has been some pro tips when it comes to our experience here at Bolt Goodley on really taking that consultative approach and spending the correct amount of time so that you can nail these, when you're dealing with prospective clients and looking for new clients in your business. Thanks for checking it out, watching. Click to subscribe if you like our videos, and don't forget to follow us on all of our different social media channels. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.